What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another Cryptid Saturday, and in today's Cryptid Saturday, we are going over the Cryptids of Ohio. Now, Ohio's got a fairly decent little bit of a list going. It's got some really interesting ones, and then some obviously returning ones, like, Bigfoot in Ohio. Honestly, with as many states that have Bigfoot stories, it astounds me that Bigfoot isn't just, considered an actual animal. Even though there's no real evidence that would suggest that, scientifically, that it could actually be out there. But yeah, so let's go ahead. Before we get into this article, guys, please remember to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop comments down below with anything you want me to cover in the future. And did you know any of these cryptids if you're from Ohio? As well as turn on that notification bell so you never miss another video from me. And guys, a little bit of a selfish plug here. I am trying to start selling my photography. If you guys would like to see the pictures that I take, you guys can go find me on Instagram, which will be at the end of this video. And I'll try and leave a link for it down in the towel section down below. But if not, I am Alex.Boyette1 over on Instagram. Please go over there and let me know if you guys would be okay or be willing to pay for any of these things. And I've uploaded a bit to Shutterstock.com, so if you guys want to go look around over there for me, that'd be great too. Let's go ahead and get into this article. Like I always like to say though, guys, I don't own the rights to these articles. I just use them to push along information. This particular article is coming from ohio.org. Please go over there and show them some love. This is Unlock the Mysteries of Ohio's Cryptid. Frogman. Also known as the Loveland frog, this 4-foot-tall bipedal frog creature has been spotted in the marshes along the Little Miami River near Loveland since 1955. Seemingly peaceful, there is no known attacks by the frogman. The frogman has been spotted throughout Hamilton County, most notably around Lake Isabella in Loveland. Lake Isabella is part of a 76-acre park known for fishing and boating on its 28-acre pay lake. Perhaps you can keep an eye out for this cryptid during a stay at one of the Campground 6 camping pod sites. The camping pods are close to the Little Miami River canoe and kayak launch, a great way to explore the scenic river and maybe catch another glimpse of the frogman, who's been seen along the banks of the Little Miami River too. I don't really know. A 4-foot-tall bipedal frog seems a little bit out there to me. Bullfrogs do get really big. So if you combine a bullfrog with, you're in a swamp, so swamps have moss and junk like that, and cypress and things that kind of, especially if you're closer to dusk, maybe you hear a bullfrog, you look over, you see this shape, and you don't know what that shape is, so you attribute it to just a giant frog. That would be my best guess. Probably a mistaken identity, but I mean, if it is out there, I kind of just want to see it. Like a 4-foot-tall frog, that'd be awesome. Like the biggest frog we have is the Goliath bullfrog, and they get big, but they ain't no 4 feet tall. Mothman. It is a really big radioactive bird. It is an interdimensional chaos demon. Is it Batman? No, it's Mothman. The cryptid took to the skies over Point Pleasant, West Virginia in 1966, setting off a chain of sightings around the small town that would culminate in the tragic Silver Bridge collapse of 1967. At the time, this bridge connected Point Pleasant, West Virginia to Gallipolis, Ohio. And like I say a lot in these videos, I'm just going to apologize now for my pronunciations. They're not that great. Mothman gained pop culture and more mainstream attention after the release of the 2002 movie, The Mothman Prophecies, which was based on the book by John A. Keel. Here's the fun thing about Mothman, okay? Mothman has so much established. People think it was a military creation. People think it's a giant bird, which I kind of give credence to on that. It's, in my opinion, Mothman's probably a big owl or something that people had seen. One of the famous stories is people saw it flying right next to their car and they thought it was running. But owls can kind of do that because they'll catch the windbreaks off the side of your car and they just kind of glide there. So personally, I think that's what it is. It's probably a misidentified bird of some kind. But it's got so much crazy lore. People saw this thing everywhere. People saw it on the roofs. People saw it, they said they saw it on this bridge and they contributed it to a bad omen. That said, so they knew that the bridge was going to collapse because they saw Mothman. But I think personally, in reality, it was actually they saw the Mothman a while, a couple of days before the bridge actually collapsed. And they know what made the bridge fall. It was bad. It was faulty structural things, heavy winds, things like that. But everyone just kind of attributed it to oh, Mothman, foretold the bridge collapsing. When in reality, it was there almost a week earlier, I think. But yeah, personally, I'm thinking misidentification on Mothman. I don't think it's a government experiment. Now it could just be, it could foretell bad luck. I mean, obviously it kind of did. But even though it was a few days earlier than that, if you want to say, oh, well, it foretold it, then yeah, you can. But that's where my thoughts are there on it. Like, I think it's more natural. I think it's mistaken identity, which happens a lot, these kinds of things. But if it's real, my guess is it had to be like some kind of type of owl. Mind you, it could be an owl that's 6 feet tall that we had no idea existed. And that was back in the day. Now they might just be extinct, and that's why you don't really get that many legit Mothman sightings. I don't know. What do you guys think? Lake monsters. There are known lake monsters who call Ohio home. Lake Erie Bessie and Charles Mill Monster, sometimes referred to as South Bay Bessie. The Lake Erie Loch Ness Monster is anywhere from 20 to 40 feet in length, has been described both snake-like and sturgeon with arms, and is either dark-colored or gray. The first known spotting of Bessie was off the shores of Sandusky in 1793. Bessie has been spotted along the shores of Lake Erie near Toledo and the Marblehead Peninsula. If you climb the 77 steps to the top of Marblehead Lighthouse, you might be able to look out into Lake Erie and see the creature. Looking for something a bit more creature from the Black Lagoon, the Charles Mill Monster might be your cryptid. Reports of a huge, armless humanoid with glowing green eyes, known to leave tracks near the shore, have been happening since 1959. The Charles Mill Monster has been spotted throughout Mansfield Charles Mill Lake. I love a good sea monster myth. I really do. But a lot of times it's just too easy to just go ahead and say these are not real creatures. Like, seeing the sea serpent thing, it could just be anything in the water, even just the waves breaking properly, and it's probably a big fish, like these things said. It looked like a sturgeon. I don't think there's sturgeons in the Great Lakes, but I could be wrong. But it could also, I know there's big fish in those lakes. They are huge. And so that's probably what that was. Now, the one that doesn't have arms but still has a serpent-like body, my guess is probably misidentified, some type of bird print. And maybe some bird sightings, like say like a loon or something that's just swimming on the water. They can look pretty serpent-like. But you know, and that's just my guess as to what they could be. If you guys know, if you guys have more intel on it, please drop some comments down below. I'd love to hear your stories. Dogman. Called the Dogman of Defiance or the Werewolf of Defiance, this humanoid dog-like creature first made its presence known by attacking 2 railway workers in the early morning hours back in 1972. While there haven't been many Dogman sightings recently, the first Dogman Symposium event in 2016 was held in Defiance. Dogmen are nice because it's probably wolves, and those people were probably attacked by some type of a wolf, maybe a coyote, something along that nature. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Dogmen and lore like everywhere, so it's really hard to say whether or not they were real or could be real or are going to be real in the future. But yeah, so I mean, it's hard to say whether they were real and aren't real now, or were never real and this is just some kind of like a story people made up to like attribute to wolves, people misidentifying wolves, just seeing wolves like on their hind legs for some apparent reason. Personally, I think those 2 guys were killed by a wolf. The timing would work out. And yeah, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Melon heads. These humanoid creatures with enormous heads wandered the woods near Kirtland, where it is told they escaped or were brought from a mad scientist or doctor's lair/cabin. Sorry. Many tales have been spun to their origin, but most can agree it's best to stay clear of the woods near Kirtland at night. While these beings have mostly been sighted along Wisner Road in Kirtland, there's more to see when you visit the town in the Lake Country. There's even a 2010 movie, Legend of the Melonheads, that is based on stories and sightings of the beings, along with other urban legends from around Kirtland. The 2018 anthology series, The Field Guide to Evil section for the US, Beware the Melonheads, also features a storyline about them. Or watch the ghosted episode of the new series, Welcome to Flatch, which makes a reference to Melonheads. Kind of just gotta feel bad for Melonheads. They did legitimately, I believe, get like a short end of a stick with what these were like legitimate people that some people think they were experimenting on, people like pushing water into their like underneath their skin until their bones like took the shape. Some of them were just like regular people with like disabilities and malformalities, and it just really is kind of sad. And a bunch of people think a lot of people just escaped, and since they couldn't rejoin modern society, they just went and lived in the woods like wild people. But I mean, in my opinion, it's just kind of sad that these things ended up as cryptids when they were just regular people. Orange eyes. Neighbor to the Charles Mill monster, the huge Sasquatch-like creature is said to have once lived under the Riverside Cemetery before its home was disrupted due to construction. Forced to find a new home, Orange Eyes, named appropriately for its huge glowing orange eyes, took up residence in the woods near Mill Lake, and the rest was cryptid history. To add to this already boiling point of cryptid entanglement, there are those who believe Orange Eyes is actually not a Sasquatch at all, but an extraterrestrial visitor due to an infamous UFO sighting outside Mansfield. There are a lot of people out there that think Bigfoot's an alien. I mean, that's not unheard of in the lore. But what I would like to say is this particular one, probably misidentification, although I don't know what creature has orange glowing eyes, if orange reflection out of the eye shine. So that gives credence to be something we don't know of, but I don't think it's a Bigfoot, unfortunately, on this one. But if it is, that'd be really cool, especially if but it's weird that it lived in this one place and then moved on. So, yeah. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Crosswick Monster. Despite having only been seen once, the Crosswick Monster really made its marks on Ohio cryptid history in 1882. Two boys were attacked by a vicious 12 to 14 foot long lizard that was eventually chased by the men of the village. Despite their hunt, the townspeople were unable to track the lizard down, and he was never seen again. So to my knowledge, large lizards, which in the United States, I believe would basically be alligators, never made it that far, or don't normally make it that far north. Now, if one did, it could potentially survive in, I don't know where Crosswick is, but if it's far enough south, it potentially could make it. I mean, I live in Oklahoma, and we just had an alligator found in a lake. So there's a good possibility that this particular thing, if it was an alligator, could have survived for a while if it was the summer, but then maybe died out over the winter, and that's why they never found it again. And if, like, the townsmen went looking for it, if that thing went into a body of water, no one would ever have found it. So, potentially an alligator. I'll take that bet. Peninsula Python. The Peninsula Python straddles the line between reality and tall tale. In the summer of 1944, residents of Peninsula started catching sight of a truly gigantic new resident, a nearly 20-foot python. 10 houses were raided, cornfields were trampled, and the most shocking giant track the size of truck tires were found in its wake. The snake was never found, but eyewitnesses swore to its legitimacy. Kind of the same thing as the alligator. If a big python was like someone's pet and they let it go, granted this was in 1944, I don't know if people were keeping pythons as pets in 1944, but actually if they weren't and it was just a random guy who had one and let it go, that would sort of make sense. Now, it raiding hen houses, definitely probably coyotes. Tracks the size of like car tires in fields may have just been car tires in fields. I mean, if it was a snake, they don't leave the same impression. Like, so but if it was a 20-foot snake, that thing's girth is going to be, big. So it could potentially have been, a sighting there. But like I said, it probably would have died over the winter, and that's probably why they didn't find it. Because that far north, they're probably not going to make it. Although there are snakes up there, so maybe it did, but snakes are also notoriously hard to find. So if it didn't reproduce like they do down in Florida where they're running rampant, potentially it just lived out its life up there. So, I don't know. Bigfoot. There are several ape-like creatures that roam Ohio's wilderness. Grassman, sometimes called the Eastern Bigfoot, is Ohio's most well-known, loved local cryptid. Interestingly, it is said this 7-foot creature is more human-looking than the Bigfoot cousin. An ape-like creature, soon to be known as the Cedar Bog Monster, was spotted around the nature preserves opening in 1942. The Minerva Monster, also coming in at 7 feet tall, was spotted in the late 1970s. There have been a few additional sightings of the furry creature in neighboring counties, but it seems to prefer the lore of Minerva best. Arguably, the most famous of these ape-like creatures seen in Ohio is actually Bigfoot. While Bigfoot has been seen at Mohican State Park in Loudonville and West Branch State Park in Ravenna, it was spotted this summer at Hocking Hill State Park in Logan. Interestingly enough, they do say that Ohio grassman looks more human than Bigfoot, but they've seen it multiple times at multiple different years in multiple different areas, which makes it seem like if it is a real creature, there's probably a population of them that's just showing up. It's probably not the same one multiple times. But I don't know, man. Like, there aren't any 7-foot tall people, but if there were people out in the woods that were just abnormally tall back in what time did it say? Like the 1942s, like 1940s essentially, up to the 1970s. If they live like big hermits living out in the woods can be mistaken for a lot of things. And that's what I like to attribute a lot of the Bigfoot sightings to. It's either misidentification of wildlife like bears or people. And if people are there, then why not, you know, especially if it's dark. And some people are just trying to scare people off. So why not invoke the big, giant, hairy creatures? Also, this place seems to have a vested interest in Bigfoot being real, or at least as a tourist thing, because they have a whole festival over it. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. If y'all have ever seen Grassman or Bigfoot, I would really like to hear about it out in Ohio. But that was pretty much it, guys. Those were the Cryptids of Ohio. This was a really, really good list, and I don't get lucky enough to find a good list like this very often. So I really hope you guys enjoy it and stay to the end. And if you did, like I said, if you guys would like, please go over to my Instagram, show it some love, and let me know in the comments down below. Would you guys be interested in any of my photography? It's not great. I shoot it with iPhone, but I'm really hoping to get a really nice camera if some of these videos start to do well and, you know, I get enough subscribers to actually warrant getting paid. But also, guys, let me know if you guys live in Ohio and if you knew about any of these cryptids prior to that, other than Mothman. Everybody knows about Mothman. And in the comments down below. As while you're down there, guys, please remember, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you never miss another Cryptid Saturday. And until next time, guys, I will see you next Saturday for Cryptid Saturday.